What's up, gang? Alex Brackey here with the Valor Group. Today we are talking about the 5 biggest mistakes that buyers make right now in today's market when they are buying a house. Now, these have changed over the years, and certainly even as recently as 6 months ago, I would say these have changed. So if you're in the market to buy a house, listen up because this is going to be super important for you. All right, number 5 is going to be beginning to look at homes before you've talked with a lender if you're getting a mortgage. Now, if you're getting a mortgage, guys, every seller is going to expect that you submit an offer with a letter from the lender saying that, hey, they've looked at your documents and you're good to go, at least preliminarily. This is something that didn't used to be the case in the past. You could write an offer and maybe not include that. I'll tell you, in years past, and if you read books or articles from, 10, 15 years ago, they'll say, hey, it's a big value add if you include a lender's letter. Yeah, it's not anymore. It's just sort of a minimum barrier to entry to get the sellers to consider your offer. The problem comes in that if you don't do this up front, you don't start your process or start looking at homes once you already have that letter from the lender, inevitably, Murphy's Law is alive and well. You're going to find the home that you fall in love with. And then by the time it takes the day or two to get that letter from the lender, somebody else has swiped that house out from you. So get your ducks in a row. It literally only takes a day or two. Get that letter from the lender and make sure you're prepared. Number 4, this is one that I discovered early in my career. So it's very common when I work with buyers, they end up getting a home under contract. They're super excited, right, that they got the home of their dreams, and they want to show, the husband's parents, and then they want to show the wife's parents, and then they want to bring the kids back, so that everybody can pick out their room. And then they want to go back again to measure for furniture. And then they want to go back and have the drapes measured by, a contractor. Guys, every time that we go back into that property, we have to negotiate our way back in. That it's not a guarantee that we get in there. And so what ends up happening is we go to the seller, hey, can we come back in? Yes. Okay. Hey, seller, can we come in a second time? Yes. Seller, can we come in a third time? Can we come in a fourth time? The seller's starting to get kind of ticked off, right? They're like, oh my gosh, what do we need to keep leaving the house for? Keep picking everything up again, right? I mean, they're moving too, keep in mind, right? They're moving, they've got a lot going on in their life, right? It's not, it's sort of not free from their perspective to let us come back in. And so what ends up happening sometimes is we end up having a big something happen toward the end of the process. For instance, maybe you've agreed to pay $500,000 for the home, but the home only appraises for $450,000. And now we need to negotiate who's going to pay for that extra $50,000. How are we going to cover that? And at that point, the seller feels like, hey man, I've had to leave this house 5 or 6 times so that you can come in and show your parents and show your parents and show the contractor and show the kids, and like, I'm tapped out, right? And so we've lost negotiating power, right? We have spent too much time asking for favors to get back in, and now we're going to pay the price in terms of actual dollars, right? So I tell folks, save your negotiation capital. Maybe you won't wind up needing it. Maybe everything works out just fine, and most times, honestly, it does. But if it doesn't, you will be upset that you spent all of it going back in and back in and back in, right? For instance, if you have a home inspection negotiated already as some of the terms of the agreement, then just bring everybody who needs to see that during the home inspection. You're going to be there for 3 or 4 hours, right? You've got the time. You might as well use it. So that's tip number 4. Tip number 3, choosing a lender who may not be able to settle on time. Now, there's never a lender who will volunteer this information and say, yep, I suck at settling on time. What we know to be true, though, is that a lot of lenders have that problem. And if you talk with your real estate agent, there's a good chance that they know who some of the folks are that tend to have the hardest time with this. And the way that this affects you is as follows, right? When we get to the end of the transaction and it's settlement day and your lender says, oops, by no fault of yours, we just didn't get our job done in time, and we need to extend settlement. They say this like this is just a non-issue, that the seller will just roll over and, oh, no problem. But in a market like we have, where it's a high driver seller's market, that is the only thing the seller needs to cancel the contract with you, kick you to the curb, try to keep your earnest money deposit, and sell the home to somebody else who's been waiting in line all along. So guys, whatever lender you pick, I always say, I don't have a dog in the fight, right? I don't own any mortgage companies. I don't have a dog in the fight of what lender you work with. But I do want the experience for you to be super smooth and seamless and stress-free. So from that respect, I want you to work with an amazing lender who's going to close the deal on time, no questions asked, so that you will get to move into the house of your dreams with no stress, or as little stress as possible. Number 2, negotiation strategy. So, this is a market, guys, where the market is in flux. And the negotiation strategy depends. It depends a lot on what's going on in that particular geographic region. Right now, there are some parts of Northern Virginia that are seeing massive double-digit appreciation increases. There are other parts of Northern Virginia where it's flat. It's 0% increase from the same time last year. And so the negotiation strategy that we would use would differ greatly depending on where you're buying the house. And so obviously this is not necessarily you as the buyer. It's not your job to understand where all these little pockets are at any given time. It's constantly changing. This is on your real estate agent to understand this. And that leads me to my number 1 biggest mistake that buyers are making is they don't ask their real estate agent, and really they shouldn't have to ask, it should be on the agent, but they don't know what is the current supply of homes in a given area or a given type of home. So for instance, you may have a 2-month supply of homes in a county. And by definition, that's a seller's market. Anything less than 3-month supply is considered a seller's market, meaning, hey, you may have to give away a lot of protections in order to land that deal, because you may be competing with a lot of other buyers. But what we actually see is, depending on the type of home you're looking for, maybe you're buying a condo, maybe you're buying a 10,000 square foot estate, but the specific type of property you're buying may not be the same demand as what the overall market is. So we saw this the other day. The overall market was about 2.1 month supply, seller's market. But the client, the home that they were interested in, was over 7-month supply, meaning it is a buyer's market, not a seller's market. So if you're looking at the market overall, that's the data that is widely available to real estate agents. If you're working with an agent and they don't have overall data, you need to find a new agent. But what takes a little bit more skill on the real estate agent's part is to dial in specific to the home that you're interested in. Homes like that, what is the month supply for homes like that? Because if we believed it was 2 months when we're trying to buy a 7-month supply home, we're going to give away way too much because we think we're going to be competing way more than we really are. So guys, if you ever have questions about this, want to dive in more, that's what I'm here for. Never hesitate to reach out, and I hope all's well.